One TV show from the 1970s was so bizarre that network executives literally walked out of the pitch meeting. But here's what nobody tells you. That same show accidentally predicted the future of reality television and launched a career that's still going strong today.
By lightning.
And the story behind which show I'm talking about will absolutely blow your mind. Today, I'm counting down 10 wildly forgotten TV shows from the decade that said yes to everything. These weren't just weird, they were gloriously, unapologetically insane, in ways that would make modern TV executives hide under their desks. The 1970s were a magical time when someone could pitch, what if we made a show about literally anything, and somehow it would end up on television. Let's dive into the beautiful madness. Number 10. Quark, 1977 to 1978. Starting us off at number 10 is the space comedy that made Star Wars look serious, Quark. This show rode the wave sparked by Star Wars' success, and someone at NBC thought, you know what this space craze needs? More jokes about garbage. So they created a show about an interstellar garbage collector and his crew of misfits. The show starred Richard Benjamin as Adam Quark, commander of a United Galaxy Sanitation Patrol ship. His mission? To boldly go where no janitor had gone before. It's like they took Star Trek and asked, what if instead of exploring strange new worlds, they just cleaned up after everyone else? The show lasted only 8 episodes, probably because audiences weren't ready for a space comedy that made fun of the genre they'd just fallen in love with. Sometimes being ahead of your time means being behind in the ratings. Number 9. Holmes and Yo-Yo, 1976 to 1977.
Who's my new partner?
At number 9, we have the buddy cop show that asks the important question, what if Sherlock Holmes was a regular detective and Dr. Watson was a malfunctioning robot? Holmes and Yo-Yo. Now get this. The show had absolutely nothing to do with Sherlock Holmes, despite the title. Detective Holmes was just a regular cop partnered with Yo-Yo, an android designed to be the perfect police officer. Except Yo-Yo was about as perfect as a toaster trying to solve crimes. The android would malfunction at the worst possible moments, usually involving sparks, smoke, and actor Richard B. Schull looking like he regretted every career choice that led him to this moment. It was like watching someone's dad try to fix a broken VCR while chasing bad guys. The show proved that the 70s were so optimistic about technology, they thought robot cops were just around the corner. They were only off by about 50 years, and several dystopian movies. Holmes and Yo-Yo aired 13 episodes on ABC, from September 25th, 1976 to August 8th, 1977. Number 8. Super Train, 1979. Coming in at number 8 is the show that tried to be Love Boat on Rails, and ended up being one of the most expensive disasters in TV history. Super Train. NBC spent millions on this show, creating an elaborate train set for its adventures. The concept was simple, a luxury train traveling across America with a different guest star each week. What could go wrong? Everything, apparently. The train kept derailing, literally and figuratively. The stories made no sense, and the budget spiraled out of control. The show lasted 9 episodes, and became a cautionary tale about what happens when you give TV producers unlimited money and a really big toy train set. Number 7. Electra Woman and Dyna Girl, 1976 to 1977. At number 7, we have the superhero show that made Batman look realistic, Electra Woman and Dyna Girl. This was part of the Croft Super Show, and it featured 2 female superheroes who fought crime with the help of Electra cops. Basically fancy wrist computers that could do anything the plot required. It was like if someone watched Wonder Woman and thought, you know what this needs? More disco? and worse special effects. The show starred Deidre Hall, yes, from Days of Our Lives, as Electra Woman, and Judy Strangis as Dinah Girl. They lived in a secret lair behind a magazine office and fought villains with names like the Sorcerer and Glitter Rock, because apparently the 70s thought all criminals should sound like they belonged in a David Bowie concert. The special effects budget was clearly whatever we found in the craft services budget, but they committed to the superhero concept with the kind of earnestness that only the Kroft brothers could provide. Number 6. Captain Caveman and the Teen Angels, 1977 to 1980. At number 6, we have the cartoon that combined prehistoric times with mystery solving and somehow made it work, Captain Caveman and the Teen Angels. Here's the hilarious part. Someone at Hanna-Barbera looked at Scooby-Doo and thought, you know what this needs? A caveman who can pull anything out of his body hair. And somehow, this became a real show that real people watched. Captain Caveman was a frozen prehistoric superhero, thawed out by 3 teenage girls, who then traveled around solving mysteries. The caveman could pull literally anything from his hair, helicopters, phones, entire toolkits, making him either the most prepared superhero ever, or the most unhygienic. The show proved that in the late 70s, you could take any successful formula, add a ridiculous character, and somehow create entertainment gold. It was Scooby-Doo meets the Flintstones. Meets someone's fever dream about body hair. But here's something most people don't realize. There's a connection between this show and our number 1 pick that involves a producer who clearly had a thing for impossible concepts. Number 5, The Kroft Super Show, 1976 to 1978. Super shows. Taking the number 5 spot is the variety show that was basically, what if we made a kids show while on a sugar high? The Kroft Super Show. Here's something that'll shock you. Sid and Marty Krofft, the brothers behind this madness, were originally puppet makers, who somehow convinced networks to let them create live-action shows. The result was a psychedelic fever dream that made Alice in Wonderland look like a documentary. The show featured segments like Dr. Shrinker, about a mad scientist who shrinks people, Wonderbug, about a magical dune buggy, and Magic Mongo, about a genie in a rock band. It was like someone threw darts at a board of random concepts and decided to film whatever they hit. The Kroft brothers had a unique ability to create shows that looked like they were designed by people who had never seen children, but had heard them described by someone who was colorblind. And somehow, kids loved every minute of it. Before we get to the top 4, let me know in the comments, which forgotten 70s show sounds the most ridiculous to you? And how old were you during this era of completely unhinged television? I'd love to know if you actually remember any of these wild shows. And hey, if you're enjoying this journey through TV's most questionable decisions, give this video a like and subscribe to help out the YouTube algorithm. We appreciate all your amazing support. What I'm about to reveal about our top 3 shows involves some behind-the-scenes chaos that almost ended careers and changed how networks approach weird TV forever. Number 4, Shields and Yarnell, 1977 to 1978. At number 4, we have the variety show that proved mimes could be even more terrifying on television, Shields and Yarnell. Now get this, CBS gave an entire variety show to 2 mimes. Mimes. The people whose entire art form is based on not talking got their own talking show. It's like giving a cooking show to someone who only eats air. Robert Shields and Lorene Yarnell were actually incredibly talented performers. But watching mimes try to host a variety show was like watching fish try to ride bicycles. Technically impressive, but fundamentally wrong. They would do elaborate mime routines, then break character to introduce guest stars, creating the most surreal television experience of the decade. The show lasted 2 seasons, which was probably 23 episodes longer than anyone expected a mime variety show to survive. It proved that in the 70s, even the most impossible concepts could find an audience, at least temporarily. Number 3. Struck by Lightning, 1979.
Struck by Lightning.
Coming in at number 3 is the show that combined Frankenstein with sitcom laughs, and somehow thought that would work, Struck by Lightning. Here's what's wild about this concept. A science teacher gets struck by lightning and gains the ability to bring a Frankenstein monster to life, who then becomes his roommate and helps him navigate modern life. It's like The Odd Couple. But if one of the roommates was a reanimated corpse with the social skills of a confused toddler. The monster, played by Jack Elam, was supposed to be scary, but ended up being more like a very large, very confused child who didn't understand things like telephones or why people screamed when they saw him. It was educational television for people who wanted to learn about the undead. The show lasted 3 months, which was probably 2 months longer than anyone expected a Frankenstein sitcom to survive. But here's what's really amazing. This show proved that in the late 70s, literally any concept could get on television, if you pitched it with enough confidence. Number 2, Bigfoot and Wild Boy, 1977 to 1979.
Comes the legendary Bigfoot, who 8 years ago saved a young child lost in the vast wilderness and raised that child until he grew up to be Wild Boy.
Our runner-up at number 2 is the adventure show that asks, what if Tarzan, but with more hair and worse acting? Bigfoot and Wild Boy. But here's the story that'll kill you. This show was part of the Croft Super Show, and it featured Bigfoot as a gentle giant who adopts a feral child and teaches him about nature and friendship. It was like a very hairy after-school special, with a budget of about $12. The show followed Bigfoot and his adopted human son as they protected the wilderness from various threats, usually involving people who wanted to exploit nature for profit. The environmental message was admirable, but the execution looked like it was filmed during someone's camping trip with a borrowed camera. The series proved that audiences in the late 70s were so hungry for adventure shows that they'd watch literally anything involving the outdoors, even if it starred a guy in a gorilla suit, teaching life lessons to a kid in a loincloth. Number 1, The Chopped Liver Brothers, 1977. And finally, taking the number 1 spot is the show that I promised would shock you, The Chopped Liver Brothers. And here's the story that almost never happened. This variety show was so weird that it got canceled after just 1 episode, making it one of the shortest-lived shows in television history. Here's the story that'll blow your mind. 2 comedians, Tom Patchett and Jay Tarsis, convinced ABC to give them a variety show where they would play fictional versions of themselves as struggling entertainers. The concept was basically, what if we made a show about making a show, but made it really, really weird? The show featured the brothers trying to put on a variety show, while everything went wrong around them. It was like watching a behind-the-scenes disaster, except it was supposed to be the actual show. The meta-comedy was so ahead of its time that audiences had no idea what they were watching. But here's what makes this the ultimate 70s disaster. The show was so confusing that viewers thought their TVs were broken. People called the network to complain that they were seeing a show about people trying to make a show, not realizing that was the show. The series lasted exactly 1 episode before ABC pulled the plug, making it one of the fastest cancellations in TV history. It proved that sometimes being too clever for your own good means being too clever for everyone else's good too. The Chopped Liver Brothers became a legend in television circles. The show so weird that it confused itself out of existence. It was peak 70s experimental television, and maybe that's exactly why it couldn't survive. These 10 shows didn't just get canceled, they became cautionary tales about what happens when creativity meets complete lack of common sense. They taught us that space janitors aren't as exciting as they sound. Mimes shouldn't host variety shows, and sometimes being too weird is actually possible. From the interstellar garbage collection of Quark to the meta-comedy disaster of the Chopped Liver Brothers, these shows captured the 70s spirit. If you could imagine it, someone would put it on television, regardless of whether it made any sense. These forgotten gems remind us that television's greatest failures are often more entertaining than its biggest successes. They were bold, bizarre, and completely unafraid to be ridiculous. And maybe that's exactly what made them special. Thanks for taking this wild journey through the 70s most questionable TV decisions. And I'll see you in the next one.